Damien Carter was a man accustomed to power, influence, and luxury. As the CEO of one of the largest investment firms in the country, he had built an empire that others only dreamed of, and his life reflected the kind of wealth that made even the elite envy him. But behind the polished image of success, there was a carefully constructed world he shared with his wife, Serena Carter. Serena, radiant and graceful, was not only beautiful but possessed a sharp mind that complemented Damien's ambitious nature. She was pregnant with their first child, and their life together, on the surface, seemed perfect, a golden portrait of love, wealth, and future promise. Yet, within the walls of their opulent mansion, secrets were quietly stirring. Olivia Blake, a woman of striking charm and calculated confidence, had inserted herself into Damien's world. Olivia believed herself to be the woman destined to replace Serena, convinced that her allure and cunning could outmatch the devoted wife. She had studied Serena's life, learned her routines, and observed Damien's weaknesses with meticulous care. Every glance, every whispered word, every carefully timed smile was part of a silent strategy that she thought would eventually claim the life Serena had built. The Carter mansion itself was a monument to extravagance. Crystal chandeliers sparkled under the soft glow of golden lights, marble floors reflected the endless wealth within, and art from around the world adorned every wall. Yet, amid the elegance and the charm, there was a tension that only a few could sense, a brewing storm disguised behind perfectly arranged flowers and gleaming surfaces. It was a stage set not just for luxury, but for confrontation. Olivia's ambition was clear. She was ready to make her move, to step into Serena's shoes, and to claim what she thought was rightfully hers. But little did she know, the battle for control was only beginning, and underestimating Serena would be her gravest mistake. Olivia stepped into the Carter mansion with a sense of triumph that made her chest swell with pride. Serena's absence gave her the perfect opportunity, and she intended to make the most of it. Every room she entered, every hallway she walked down, felt like a victory lap, a reminder that she was now in control of the life she had long coveted. The mansion, with its grand marble staircase, floor-to-ceiling windows and priceless art, had always been Serena's domain, yet now Olivia was the one walking boldly through the spaces that once belonged to her rival. She ran her fingers over Serena's jewelry laid out in velvet boxes, admiring the shimmer and imagining herself wearing them at glamorous events, replacing Serena completely. She didn't stop at simply admiring the possessions. Olivia redecorated the sitting room, adding modern touches to assert her influence, changed the flowers in the hallways to vibrant, bold colors, and even arranged Serena's personal spaces in a way that screamed her presence. It was a declaration: the mansion was hers now, and anyone who doubted it could see her mark everywhere. She hosted lavish gatherings for Damien's business associates and socialites, flaunting the luxurious life she was now living, ensuring that everyone noticed the new power in the household. Damien, entirely captivated by Olivia's charm and confidence, began to disregard Serena's calls and messages. Her attempts to reach him were ignored, leaving Olivia feeling unstoppable. She imagined Serena pacing, frustrated, helpless, while she basked in the glory of what she believed was her ultimate victory. In her mind, she had destroyed Serena completely, removing every trace of her influence and asserting dominance in every corner of the mansion. Olivia's internal monologue overflowed with smug satisfaction. She thinks she can come back and take this from me? She thought. Not a chance. I've won. Damien is mine, and this house is mine. Serena has no idea what's coming. I'm untouchable, unstoppable, and undeniable. Every glance at herself in the ornate mirrors reflected her belief that she was now the queen of the Carter world, and nothing could possibly threaten her carefully constructed illusion of victory. Serena Carter sat in the quiet sanctuary of her private study, her hand resting lightly on her growing belly, feeling the tiny flutter of life within. She was fully aware of Olivia Blake's intrusion into her home, fully aware of the mistress's audacious claim to the life Serena had built with Damien. Yet, despite the storm raging around her, Serena remained composed, her face a mask of calm that concealed the burning determination within. Heartbroken though she was, she knew that reacting impulsively would only play into Olivia's hands. Patience, strategy, and subtle intelligence were her weapons now, and she would wield them with precision. Serena had never been alone in her life's battles. Her father, Richard Whitman, a self-made billionaire with a decorated past as a military strategist, had always been a guiding force. Richard's keen eye for detail and strategic mind had helped Serena develop a sense of calculated patience, teaching her that true power was often quiet, unseen, and waiting for the perfect moment. With his guidance, she began to document Olivia's every move meticulously, recording messages, photographing misplaced possessions, and noting reckless behaviors, all as a preparation for a moment when the evidence could be used decisively. While Olivia flaunted her ill-gotten victory, Serena's mind worked tirelessly, constructing a plan that would turn the tables completely. Each calculated decision, each patient pause, demonstrated her intelligence and her unshakable resolve. She wasn't simply waiting for opportunity, she was shaping it, molding it into a force that would strike at the right time. Though the world saw her as calm and composed, Serena's inner thoughts were anything but idle. She envisioned the precise sequence of events that would ensure Olivia's humiliation and Damien's reckoning. Every action, every observation, every quiet note taken was a step toward a meticulous, inevitable revenge, one that would leave no doubt about who truly held the power in the Carter household. Olivia's sense of invincibility grew with each passing day. Every glance in the mirror, every sparkling accessory, every lavish party she hosted reinforced the belief that she had completely overtaken Serena's life. She moved through the Carter mansion with a smug confidence, paying little attention to the subtle undercurrents around her. The staff, who had long been loyal to Serena, exchanged cautious glances, careful not to upset Olivia, but silently observing her every move. Yet Olivia was too absorbed in her triumph to notice these quiet acts of loyalty still bound to Serena. She underestimated the reach of Serena's influence and connections. Friends, business associates and household staff were not entirely swayed by Olivia's charm. Many remained aligned with Serena, quietly providing her with information and support. Olivia saw only what she wanted to see, her perceived dominance, and ignored the faint warnings embedded in casual remarks, lingering glances, and whispered confidences. Each day that Damien became more dependent on her attention and approval inflated her ego even further. She reveled in the sense that she had captured the millionaire's heart completely, that Damien's admiration and need for her presence were hers to command. Small incidents hinted that Serena's strategy was quietly unfolding. A vase slightly repositioned, a misplaced document returned to its rightful place, a carefully timed compliment to a guest, all orchestrated by Serena from the shadows, went unnoticed by Olivia but reinforced the web of influence Serena had maintained. These subtle manipulations suggested that Serena was observing, learning, and shaping the environment in ways Olivia would never anticipate. Olivia, blinded by overconfidence, continued her extravagant displays, oblivious to the silent storm gathering around her. Every action she took, every boastful word she spoke, made her more vulnerable to the carefully calculated moves Serena was preparing. The seeds of eventual downfall were already planted, hidden behind the very mansion that Olivia had so arrogantly claimed as her own. Serena's return to the city was quiet, calculated, and unexpected. She arrived under the guise of routine maternity checkups, giving no hint that her presence would soon begin to unravel Olivia's carefully constructed illusion of victory. Every step she took was deliberate, every word measured. She walked through the streets with a serene confidence, aware that she was now moving in a world where she held the real power, even if Olivia refused to see it. The first part of Serena's strategy involved reconnecting with Damien's business associates. She attended meetings and events subtly, slipping into conversations with the ease of someone who belonged, yet carefully planting seeds of doubt about Olivia's influence and judgment. Each casual remark was layered, hinting at Olivia's recklessness or vanity without revealing Serena's hand directly. Slowly, Damien's allies began to notice cracks in Olivia's facade, whispering among themselves, yet always careful not to openly confront her. Serena's intelligence and discretion made her influence invisible, and yet unmistakably effective. Meanwhile, Serena rebuilt trust with the household staff. Those who had long admired her discretion and composure now confided in her about Olivia's mistakes, how she mismanaged schedules, ignored Damien's preferences, and flaunted her arrogance in ways that disrupted the household's balance. Serena listened patiently, documenting every detail for later use. She did not confront Olivia directly, Instead, she allowed the mistress's errors to accumulate quietly, confident that the truth would reveal itself at the right moment. Tension began to ripple through the mansion. Olivia, sensing subtle disruptions in her control, noticed minor inconsistencies, misplaced items, staff behaving unusually, and Damien occasionally questioning decisions she had thought unquestionable. Each moment chipped away at her confidence, leaving tiny cracks in the armor of certainty she had built around herself. Serena also re-established her emotional presence with Damien, reminding him subtly of their bond. A fleeting glance, a shared memory, a gentle comment, each interaction was enough to awaken dormant loyalty and affection. Olivia, watching these interactions, felt a quiet unease she could not explain. Serena's calculated patience was already beginning to dismantle Olivia's sense of dominance, and the first seeds of doubt had firmly taken root in the mistress's mind. Olivia's confident stride through the mansion and social circles began to falter as subtle changes in her environment caught her attention. She started noticing small manipulations she couldn't quite explain, staff behaving differently, minor mishaps that seemed almost intentional, and glances exchanged when she wasn't looking. These small inconsistencies gnawed at her sense of control, planting the first seeds of doubt in her otherwise unshakable confidence. At a high-profile charity gala, Olivia's carefully rehearsed charm slipped for the first time. A misplaced speech, a wrongly served dish, or an offhand comment from a business associate hinted at her growing vulnerability. Her poise wavered, her mind racing to understand how these embarrassments had occurred. Olivia, accustomed to dominance and admiration, found herself unsettled by the idea that someone she had dismissed entirely, was quietly orchestrating these minor disturbances. She couldn't identify the source, but a creeping paranoia began to take hold. Desperate to reclaim a sense of authority, Olivia confronted Damien privately. "Why are you questioning me?" she demanded, her voice sharp yet tinged with anxiety. Damien, unaccustomed to such boldness paired with underlying tension, hesitated. His feelings of guilt, long suppressed by his infatuation with Olivia, began to surface. He realized he had neglected Serena, underestimated her patience, and allowed Olivia to dominate not only his home but his conscience. For the first time, Damien wavered, unsure of how to assert control or defend the mistress who had seemed so secure in her victory. Meanwhile, Serena remained careful, never confronting Olivia directly. She allowed her influence to ripple subtly through events, conversations, and household interactions. Each carefully placed maneuver, each quiet observation of Olivia's mistakes, added weight to the mistress's growing uncertainty. Olivia, who had once believed herself untouchable, now felt vulnerable, her paranoia amplified by Serena's unseen hand. Even in these early moments, the foreshadowing of Olivia's impending public humiliation was clear. The cracks in her confidence were widening, and Serena's patient, strategic movements were positioning the final, devastating exposure. Olivia's arrogance, once her greatest weapon, was now quietly preparing to become her undoing, and the stage was being set for the ultimate reckoning. Serena knew that subtle manipulations had only gone so far, the time had come for a decisive move. She planned a grand charity gala, an event so prominent that both Damien and Olivia would be compelled to attend publicly. The venue was opulent, filled with the city's elite, media representatives, and influential business associates. Serena's strategy was meticulous. Every guest, every moment, every detail was designed to expose Olivia's arrogance and recklessness while showcasing Serena's composure and intelligence. In preparation, Serena compiled a dossier of undeniable evidence against Olivia. Personal messages between Olivia and Damien revealed manipulative attempts to undermine Serena's authority and steal her life. Photos and records documented Olivia's extravagant misuse of Damien's resources, from costly purchases to lavish parties that disregarded household management. Testimonies from staff illustrated Olivia's reckless behavior and mistreatment, which she had believed would remain hidden. Every piece of evidence was timed to surface at precisely the right moment, ensuring maximum impact. Richard Whitman, Serena's father, positioned himself strategically among influential guests, ready to support Serena's revelations with authority and credibility. Trusted allies of Serena were also present, all aware of their roles in the unfolding plan. Serena herself moved through the gala with grace, her calm smile masking the anticipation of the humiliation soon to come. Damien, initially oblivious to the full scope of the plan, observed quietly, beginning to understand that Serena's patience and intelligence were far greater than he had imagined. As the evening progressed, subtle hints and small exposures led to the unveiling of the full truth. Olivia's manipulation of the staff, her misuse of Damien's wealth, and her personal schemes were revealed through documents, private communications, and testimonies, all orchestrated with seamless precision. Gasps rippled through the crowd as Olivia's arrogance crumbled in real time, her carefully maintained facade shattering before the high society audience. Damien's shock and guilt were evident. He struggled to reconcile his feelings for Olivia with the reality of her deceit. Olivia, once confident and untouchable, froze, her face pale and eyes wide as the crowd's murmurs grew louder. Serena, composed and radiant, stood as the embodiment of justice and calculated revenge. The gala, intended as a public display of Olivia's dominance, instead became the stage for her total and irrevocable humiliation. The audience watched in awe, recognizing Serena's brilliance and the inevitable fall of the mistress who had dared to overstep her bounds. The moment the truth was revealed, Olivia's carefully constructed world began to unravel in an instant. Gasps of shock and whispers of judgment filled the grand ballroom as her lies, greed, and manipulations were laid bare. Every stolen moment, every deceitful scheme, every attempt to undermine Serena now stood exposed for all to see. The high society guests who had once admired her poise and charm now looked upon her with incredulity and disdain. Olivia's confident posture faltered, the smug smile that had once defined her arrogance disappeared, replaced by panic and disbelief. Damien watched, a heavy weight settling over his chest. The depth of Serena's patience, intelligence, and calculated strategy became horrifyingly clear to him. He realized that while he had been distracted by Olivia's allure, Serena had been quietly observing, planning, and preparing for this precise moment. His guilt surged as he recognized his own mistakes, the way he had ignored Serena, indulged Olivia, and allowed the mistress to infiltrate their home and life. Damien felt both admiration and remorse for Serena, understanding that her victory was not just deserved but inevitable, built on a foundation of foresight and moral clarity. Olivia's support network crumbled almost immediately. Friends who had attended the gala in support of her began to distance themselves, whispering behind her back and avoiding her gaze. The staff, once fearful of her wrath, now offered silent allegiance to Serena. Every ally Olivia had counted on evaporated in the wake of her public disgrace. She was left isolated, desperate, and entirely powerless, the reality of her situation sinking in with a chilling weight. Serena, meanwhile, maintained an air of calm and control. Her composure, elegance, and quiet satisfaction highlighted the contrast between her strength and Olivia's collapse. She did not gloat or revel in cruelty. Her victory was marked by intelligence, strategy, and moral superiority. Every glance and every controlled gesture reinforced her dominance and the inevitability of justice. Olivia's psychological breakdown was complete. Her mind raced with regret, fear, and disbelief, understanding that her moment of triumph had been nothing more than an illusion. This moment of utter humiliation and despair set the stage for Serena's final moves, the ultimate execution of her revenge. The mistress, once confident and untouchable, now faced the full consequences of her arrogance, powerless before the woman she had underestimated so gravely. After the gala, Serena knew her work was far from finished. Damien, still reeling from the public exposure of Olivia's deceit, found himself face to face with the deeper truths Serena had quietly accumulated over weeks. In the privacy of their study, Serena calmly, yet firmly, presented the intimate betrayals he had allowed to unfold. She detailed not only Olivia's manipulations but also how his inattentiveness and impulsive indulgence had contributed to the chaos. Damien's face shifted from guilt to shame as he began to confront the full weight of his actions, realizing the depth of Serena's patience, intelligence, and restraint. Meanwhile, Olivia, though defeated publicly, began to feel the sting of her personal consequences. She had tried to replace a devoted, intelligent wife with charm and manipulation, only to discover that true bonds, strategy, and emotional strength could not be so easily undone. Each interaction she had with the household staff, Each glance at Serena reclaiming spaces she had once flaunted as her own, reminded her of the futility of her efforts. Olivia's arrogance, once her greatest asset, now served as a reminder of how completely she had miscalculated. Serena moved through her home with a renewed sense of ownership, not only of the physical spaces Olivia had tried to dominate, but also of the emotional landscape that had been disturbed. She restored the balance of her home with grace, asserting control while demonstrating unwavering dignity. Every gesture, from arranging her personal belongings to gently comforting Damien, emphasized her emotional strength and self-respect. It was a quiet, yet undeniable display of power, a reminder that victory could be achieved with intelligence, patience, and integrity rather than malice. Olivia, left on the sidelines, could only watch and plan futilely. Despite her schemes, she was powerless against Serena's strategic advantage and the deep loyalty that Serena commanded from everyone around her. The mistress, once bold and confident, was now reduced to calculating potential moves she could no longer execute. Serena's ultimate revenge was complete, not in violence or overt cruelty, but in reclaiming her life, her dignity, and her rightful place, leaving Olivia to confront the consequences of underestimating a woman who had mastered the art of patience and strategy. Damien sat alone in the quiet of his study, the weight of his mistakes pressing heavily on his chest. The grandeur of the mansion, once a symbol of his power, now felt hollow, overshadowed by the consequences of his betrayal. He had allowed Olivia to infiltrate his life and home, ignoring the love and loyalty of his wife, Serena. With each passing hour, he realized the depth of the pain he had caused her, the emotional turmoil that his negligence had unleashed. Summoning every ounce of humility, he sought Serena out, his voice trembling as he attempted to apologize, hoping to convey the sincerity of his remorse. Serena listened, her face composed but her eyes steady and discerning. Damien's words were not enough to erase the weeks of betrayal, but they were a step toward accountability. Serena understood the complexity of human weakness, yet she also knew that true redemption required more than apology. It required consistent action and a willingness to accept lasting consequences. She set clear boundaries, outlining the expectations for trust, loyalty, and respect, making it evident that betrayal could not be forgiven lightly. Damien would have to earn her trust again, and even then, the shadow of his mistakes would remain a cautionary reminder. Meanwhile, Olivia, desperate to reclaim a semblance of influence, attempted one final maneuver. She sought to manipulate Damien's emotions and reassert herself in the household, hoping to exploit any lingering cracks in Serena's control. Her efforts were futile. Serena anticipated every move, her strategic planning leaving Olivia powerless and reinforcing the mistress's ultimate defeat. The attempt only served to highlight Serena's dominance and the irreversibility of Olivia's downfall. For Serena, the resolution brought emotional closure. She reclaimed the stability, dignity, and authority that had been challenged, reinforcing that patience, intelligence, and moral fortitude would always prevail. Damien faced the reality of his actions, caught between the possibility of redemption and the permanent consequences of his choices. Olivia, meanwhile, faded into the background, her schemes thwarted entirely, leaving both men to grapple with the outcomes of their decisions. Serena emerged unshaken, a testament to resilience and the enduring power of strategic, principled revenge. Olivia's departure from the Carter mansion was quiet yet loaded with humiliation. The lavish halls she had once paraded through with such confidence now felt like a prison of memories and failures. Each step she took away from the home she had tried to claim reminded her of how completely she had been outmaneuvered. Gone were the smug smiles and arrogant gestures that had defined her recent weeks. In their place was a heavy weight of shame and disbelief. She had believed herself untouchable, yet Serena's patience and intellect had proven otherwise, leaving Olivia stripped of her illusions of power. As she walked into the unknown, Olivia began to reflect on the arrogance that had guided her actions. She replayed the moments of misjudgment, from flaunting Damien's wealth to underestimating Serena's influence and the loyalty she inspired. Every miscalculation, every small oversight, now felt monumental. For the first time, Olivia confronted the truth. Her confidence had been built on a fragile foundation, and it had crumbled spectacularly. The psychological impact was profound. Her future felt uncertain, her sense of self severely shaken. Olivia's mind raced with questions about what she had lost, what she had risked, and whether she could ever regain the boldness she once possessed. Meanwhile, Serena's moral and intellectual victory shone unmistakably. She had not relied on malice or confrontation but had orchestrated a strategy of patience, observation, and precision that ensured justice was served. Every action taken, every move anticipated, reinforced her superiority, not just in intellect but in character. Serena reclaimed her home, her life, and her dignity with quiet grace, standing as a testament to the power of strategy and moral clarity. Damien, humbled by the ordeal, faced the reality of rebuilding his life under Serena's terms. His errors had consequences, and while Serena allowed him a path toward redemption, it came with accountability, respect, and acknowledgement of the trust he had broken. The mansion, once a battleground of deceit and ambition, returned to a place of order, justice, and measured control, with Serena firmly at its center. Olivia's exit marked the final chapter of her intrusion, leaving her to face the repercussions of her arrogance while Serena emerged victorious, unshaken, and empowered. Serena Carter moved through her home with a renewed sense of purpose and serenity. The mansion, once a place where deception and ambition had clashed violently, now reflected harmony and order under her firm guidance. Every room, every detail, and every decision mirrored the careful balance she had restored. With her unborn child growing steadily, Serena focused on nurturing her family and creating a secure, loving environment, free from the chaos that Olivia had brought into their lives. Her days were filled with quiet joy, reflection, and the deep satisfaction of knowing that justice had been served without compromising her integrity. Damien, humbled by the consequences of his previous mistakes, worked tirelessly to rebuild trust. He approached Serena with patience, respect, and a commitment to proving that his remorse was genuine. But it was clear that this path would be guided by Serena's terms. Forgiveness was not a gift to be taken lightly, and every step Damien took had to honor the boundaries she had set. His redemption was possible, but it required consistent effort, honesty, and acknowledgement of the pain he had caused. Through this process, Damien began to appreciate the depth of Serena's intelligence and the unwavering strength that had orchestrated Olivia's downfall. Olivia's absence marked the restoration of order and dignity within the household. The staff, relieved and reassured, resumed their duties under Serena's leadership, and the mansion returned to a place of calm authority. The echo of past chaos lingered only as a reminder of the consequences of arrogance, deceit, and underestimating one's opponent. Serena's triumph was not just personal, it was moral and strategic, a testament to the power of patience, foresight, and intelligence over impulsive pride. As the sun set over the Carter estate, Serena stood at the balcony, her hand gently resting on her belly, contemplating the journey she had endured. The ultimate revenge had been achieved, not through anger or cruelty, but through meticulous planning, restraint, and unwavering resolve. Justice had been restored, the home reclaimed, and her dignity reinforced. Olivia's intrusion was over, Damien's reckoning underway, and Serena's family, and her future, were secure. In that moment, she understood that true power lay not in fleeting victories, but in patience, strategy, and the quiet certainty of righteous triumph. Serena's ultimate revenge was complete, and nothing could unsettle the calm dominance she now embodied.